Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm your name, and I dive deep into the stories that don't make it to the headlines or the ones that do, but only tell half the truth. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on my time at Donda Academy, sharing what it was really like to work for Kanye West and why this so-called school left me questioning everything. This is a long one, so grab a snack, settle in, and let's get into it. But first, let's set the stage. Before we dive into the chaos of Donda Academy, you need to understand why this place even existed, and why I, an educator with a passion for teaching, ended up there. Kanye West, by 2020, was already a global icon, Grammy-winning rapper, fashion mogul, cultural provocateur, but he was also a man grappling with personal loss and public scrutiny. His mother, Dr. Donda West, a respected English professor at Chicago State University, passed away in 2007. She was his anchor, his biggest supporter, and her death left a void that Kanye has referenced in his music and interviews ever since. In the fall of 2020, Kanye announced he was founding a private school in her honor, Donda Academy. The vision, a Christian K-12 school that would blend faith, creativity, and innovation to turn kids into geniuses. As Kanye put it in an interview with ABC News, it sounded ambitious, noble even. A place where kids could learn practical skills for a post-iPhone world, free from the constraints of traditional education, parkour classes, a gospel choir, STEM programs, and uniforms designed by Kanye himself in collaboration with Balenciaga and Yeezy. Tuition was set at $15,000 a year, but scholarships were offered to make it accessible. On paper, it was a dream. First heard about Donda Academy through a friend in the education world. They'd seen a job posting for teachers in Simi Valley, California, where the school was initially based. The ad was vague, no mention of accreditation, no clear curriculum outline, but it promised small class sizes, creative freedom, and the chance to work on a project backed by one of the most influential artists alive. I was skeptical. Kanye's public persona was, let's say, polarizing. His rants, his political stances, his unfiltered outbursts on social media, they made headlines constantly. But I was also intrigued. Could someone with his track record of disrupting industries actually revolutionize education? I applied, got a call back, and after a whirlwind interview process where I signed a non-disclosure agreement just to learn more, I was hired as a teacher in November 2022. Now, let's be clear, I didn't go into this blind. I'd seen Kanye's interviews, like the one with Tucker Carlson where he called Donda a gospel school focused on faith and innovation. I knew about his anti-Semitic comments that fall, which had cost him partnerships with Adidas, Balenciaga, and others. I knew the school had briefly closed in October 2022 after those remarks, only to reopen hours later. But I also believed in the potential of what Donda could be. I thought, maybe, just maybe, I could be part of something transformative. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. Walking into Donda Academy for the first time felt like stepping into a Kanye West music video. The building in Simi Valley was a former prep school, but it had been transformed into something stark and surreal. Blacked-out windows, gray walls, no artwork anywhere. The kids were dressed head to toe in black Balenciaga uniforms, baggy t-shirts, sweatpants, Yeezy sneakers. It was sleek, minimalist, almost cult-like in its uniformity. The staff too had to follow a strict dress code, black Yeezy clothing, no Nike or Adidas allowed. I remember thinking, this is a school. It felt more like a fashion shoot. The secrecy hit me immediately. Parents and staff had signed NDAs, and we were told not to discuss the school's practices publicly. The location was kept hush-hush, and even the kids seemed aware of the need for discretion. I met the principal, Moira Love, and the executive director, Brianne Campbell, a 28-year-old master's student at Pepperdine with no formal education background. That raised a red flag, but I brushed it off. Kanye's collaborator, Malik Yusuf, had told Rolling Stone that Kanye's vision was to disrupt education, and maybe that meant unconventional leadership. I was willing to give it a chance. The kids, though man, they were something special. About 100 students from pre-K to 12th grade, many on scholarships. Some were children of Kanye's collaborators or celebrities, like Ashia Cole's son. Others were local kids whose parents saw Donda as a ticket to a better future. They were bright, curious, and eager to learn. But as I settled into my role, I started noticing things that didn't add up. As a teacher, I expected structure, lesson plans, textbooks, assessments. Donda had none of that. The daily schedule on the website promised full school worship, core classes in language arts, math, and science, and enrichment courses like choir, visual arts, and parkour. In reality, it was chaos. We started each day with a worship, a session, which was essentially Kanye's Sunday service choir performing gospel music. It was beautiful. Don't get me wrong, those kids could sing, but it took up hours of instructional time. Core classes were a mess. There were no textbooks, no standardized tests, no individualized learning plans. Teachers were given vague instructions to teach the basics but forbidden from using things like crossword puzzles or coloring sheets. Kanye didn't allow them, supposedly because they stifled creativity. Instead, we were told to focus on practical tools for the modern world, but no one could define what that meant. I tried to teach my middle schoolers about history, but I was told to avoid topics like African American history, Asian American history, or the Holocaust. Keep it neutral, my supervisor said. Neutral. History isn't neutral. That's when I started to feel uneasy. The enrichment classes were hit or miss. Parkour was a favorite. Kids loved running and jumping in the gym, but it felt more like recess than a structured program. Choir was a big deal, with kids performing at Kanye's YZY9 fashion show in Paris, but other promised courses, like film or world languages, barely existed. We were stretched thin, with only 16 teachers for 100 students, and the school wasn't accredited, meaning credits might not transfer if a kid left. Parents weren't told this up front, which felt deceptive. If the lack of curriculum was jarring, the rules were downright bizarre. Kanye's influence was everywhere, and his personal quirks shaped the school's environment. Here's a rundown of some of the strangest ones. No second floor. The entire second floor of the building was off limits because Kanye was reportedly afraid of stairs. Classrooms up there sat empty, cramming everyone onto the first floor. No glass. Kanye didn't like glass, so the windows had no panes. A skylight in one classroom was just a hole, letting rain pour in during storms. The floor would get moldy and the smell lingered for days. No chairs. Students sat on foam cushions or stood. During lessons, teachers could use stools, but chairs were banned. My back was killing me by week 2. No utensils. Lunch was served without forks or spoons. Kids ate with their hands, which was messy and impractical. No jewelry, no Nike, no Adidas. The dress code was strictly enforced, and Kanye's feud with Adidas meant their gear was persona non grata. No artwork. Classroom walls were bare. No posters. No student projects. Kanye wanted a clean aesthetic, but it felt sterile. Sushi only. Lunch was sushi every single day. Kanye reportedly spent $10,000 a week on it. Kids who didn't like sushi or forgot to bring food went hungry. Fruit was offered as a morning snack, but that was it. These rules weren't just quirky, they created a dysfunctional environment. Bullying was rampant because there were no disciplinary procedures. One student slapped another and tried to assault a teacher, but nothing happened. The lack of structure made it hard to maintain order, and the kids suffered for it. As an educator, my biggest concern was safety. Donda Academy was a hazard waiting to happen. There was no school nurse, no janitorial staff. Teachers cleaned classrooms with acid water and microfiber cloths because Kanye didn't believe in chemical cleaners. Medications, including expired ones, were stored unsecured in closets or scattered around classrooms. If a kid needed an inhaler or EpiPen, good luck finding it in time. The building itself was a mess. Exposed electrical wiring, loose baseboards, an overflowing septic tank. These were reported by teachers like me, but nothing was fixed. An electrical fire broke out near the student eating area at one point, and we had to evacuate. Power outages were common, forcing us to teach under generator-powered floodlights and that open skylight. It wasn't just rain coming through. Birds flew in, leaving droppings on the floor. It was unhygienic and unsafe. I raised these concerns with administrators, but they brushed me off. We're working on the kinks, they'd say. Meanwhile, strangers could pick up kids without verification, and the doors were locked from the outside during the day, trapping us inside. It felt like a fire code violation waiting to happen. I started documenting everything, knowing I might need proof later. Kanye himself was a sporadic but intense presence. He'd show up unannounced, entourage in tow, and the whole school would grind to a halt. Kids and staff stood up like it was a military inspection. One former student, Brendan Moore, described it as like church. Kanye would walk through, nodding approvingly or barking orders. I saw him maybe 5 times during my tenure, but each visit left an impression. His behavior was erratic. One day he'd be charming, hyping up the kids about their potential to change the world. The next, he'd be ranting about his enemies Adidas, the media, or vague conspiracies. I overheard him tell students he wanted them to shave their heads and that he planned to build a jail at the school to lock them in cages. I thought he was joking, but the look in his eyes said otherwise. Another time he compared himself to Hitler, saying Hitler was an innovator. He invented cars. I was floored. This wasn't just eccentric, it was dangerous. His anti-Semitic remarks were impossible to ignore. In meetings, he'd talk about discriminatory conspiracies of Jews, according to a lawsuit filed by a former employee, Trevor Phillips. I didn't witness those exact words, but I heard similar sentiments. He'd also make comments about gay people, calling them unchristian and claiming they were part of a population control scheme. It was toxic, and it made me question why I was still there. Kanye's personal life bled into the workplace too. He'd show staff nude photos of women he was dating, brag about his Paris fashion show trips funded by the school's budget, and video call women to discuss lingerie in front of employees. It was unprofessional and uncomfortable. When he fired people, it was public and humiliating. Phillips claimed Kanye threatened to punch him over a garden project, screaming in front of kids and staff. I saw similar outbursts. Kanye would lose it over minor issues, then act like nothing happened. One of Donda's biggest draws was its basketball team, the Donda Doves. Kanye recruited top talent, like Robert Dillingham, ranked No. 8 on ESPN's 100 list. The team was featured on the cover of Slam magazine in January 2022, with Kanye front and center. Games were high-profile, with NBA stars like Jaylen Brown and Jordan Clarkson dropping by to coach. For a while, it seemed like Donda could become a sports powerhouse. But the team was a microcosm of the school's problems. Players lived in an apartment complex with chaperones, taking online courses instead of attending regular classes. When Kanye's anti-Semitic comments hit in October 2022, the team imploded. Invitations to major showcases like the Hoop Hall Classic were rescinded. Players like Dillingham, J.J. Taylor, and Chuck Bailey III left, and parents like Diana Cooper told the New York Times they were kept in the dark about the team's future. The Doves' collapse mirrored the school's broader unraveling. Kanye used the team and the school for his public image. He posted TikToks of the choir, shared clips of kids in uniforms, and hyped Donda as a revolutionary institution. But behind the scenes, it was falling apart. The secrecy, the NDAs, the lack of transparency, it all served to shield Kanye's vision from scrutiny, not to protect the kids. You might be wondering why I didn't quit sooner. Honestly, it was the kids. They deserved better, and I thought I could make a difference. I bonded with my students, especially the ones who came from tough backgrounds. They saw Donda as a chance to escape, to be part of something bigger. I didn't want to abandon them, but by March 2023, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd reported safety violations, curriculum issues, and Kanye's behavior to administrators, but nothing changed. I was told I was being aggressive for speaking up, just like teachers Cecilia Haley and Chekery Byers, who were fired that same month for similar complaints. I knew my days were numbered. When I was finally let go, it happened abruptly in the parking lot, with no explanation. I later learned it was retaliation for my whistleblowing, a pattern confirmed by lawsuits from Haley, Byers, Tamani Meeks, and Isaiah Meadows. Leaving was a relief, but it broke my heart. I worried about the kids left behind, the ones who'd invested so much in Kanye's dream. Donda Academy closed permanently in June 2024, according to the California Department of Education, with no public announcement. Lawsuits piled up, alleging everything from wrongful termination to discrimination to unsafe conditions. Kanye settled some of them in March 2025, just weeks before trials were set to begin, but the damage was done. So, what was Donda Academy? It wasn't a school, not in any meaningful sense. It was a projection of Kanye West's ego, a chaotic experiment dressed up as education. Malik Yusuf called it a threat to the traditional school system, but it was more like a threat to the kids and staff caught in its orbit. Kanye's vision to honor his mother, to disrupt education, to blend faith and innovation was noble in theory, but the execution was a disaster. The school's secrecy, its lack of accreditation, its bizarre rules, they all served Kanye's need for control, not the students' need for learning. His anti-Semitic rants, his erratic behavior, his disregard for safety, they turned Donda into a dystopian nightmare. Former employees like Trevor Phillips described it as a place designed to satisfy Ye's idiosyncrasies. I'd go further. It was a cult of personality, where Kanye's whims trumped everything else, and yet there were moments of brilliance. The choir's performances, the kids' creativity, the potential of what Donda could have been. It wasn't all bad. Some parents and staff believed in the mission, even after the school's collapse, but good intentions can't overcome systemic dysfunction. Donda Academy was a cautionary tale about what happens when unchecked power meets untested ambition. Looking back, my time at Donda Academy changed me. It taught me to trust my instincts, to speak up even when it's risky, and to prioritize kids over celebrity. I'm still an educator, but I'm more cautious now, more aware of how charisma can mask incompetence. Kanye West is a genius in music and fashion, but education isn't a stage, it's a responsibility. He failed that responsibility, and the kids paid the price. I don't hate Kanye, I pity him. He's a man wrestling with demons, grief, mental health struggles, public vilification, but his actions have consequences, and Donda Academy was a casualty of his chaos. To the students and families who believed in Donda, I hope you found better opportunities. To my fellow teachers who spoke out, thank you for your courage. And to anyone thinking of working for a celebrity's passion project, do your homework. NDAs and hype can hide a lot of red flags. Thanks for watching, and until next time.